Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we unpack stacks of sources to really get to the core insights. We give you that informed shortcut you might be looking for.
And today, we're diving into something quite profound, moving deeply into the now. We've got this fascinating collection of notes and texts looking at consciousness, time, and freedom from suffering.
That's right. Our mission here is to pull out the absolute key nuggets about how the mind works, this idea of time as an illusion, and maybe most importantly, how you can access the power and, well, the peace of the present moment.
We want to help you get a solid handle on this perspective quickly and hopefully effectively. So let's get into it.
Okay, so you might have this feeling, right, that I still need to learn so much more about my mind, analyze everything.
Yeah, figure it all out before you can find peace or clarity.
Exactly. But what this material suggests is that's actually not the way.
Right. The source argues that the mind's fundamental problems, they can't actually be solved on the level of the mind.
It's like trying to study madness in minute detail, hoping it'll make you sane.
It just doesn't work that way. Studying the complexity doesn't get you beyond it.
So what is the basic dysfunction then, according to this?
It's our identification with the mind. Mistaking that constant stream of thoughts and the emotions, too, for who you fundamentally are.
And this creates a sort of false self, the ego.
Precisely. The ego. It takes the place of your true self, which this perspective says is rooted deeper in being. The source uses that analogy from Jesus.
Ah, like a branch cut off from the vine.
Exactly. Disconnected from the source.
And this ego, it's described as feeling quite vulnerable.
Oh, absolutely. It has endless needs, always feels threatened somehow, lives in this background state of fear and want.
And here's a really interesting point. You don't necessarily need to explore all the ways this manifests, all the specific problems.
No, because the ego actually kind of likes problems. It uses them to strengthen its sense of self, its illusory identity.
So attaching to problems reinforces the ego.
Wow. Yeah, for a lot of people, their identity is really wrapped up in their suffering, their problems. So unconsciously, there's this resistance to letting them go.
Because it feels like losing who you are.
It can feel like that, yeah. A kind of unconscious investment in keeping the pain going.
Okay, so the solution proposed here is simpler.
Remarkably so, in concept at least. Once you recognize this core dysfunction, the identification with mind you are, in that moment of recognition, stepping out of it.
You become present.
You become present. And presence is that state where you can observe the mind without being completely swept away by it.
It's not that the mind itself is bad then.
Not at all. The mind's a fantastic tool. It's brilliant for practical things. The dysfunction is seeking yourself in it, believing you are your thoughts. That's when the egoic mind runs the show.
Right. But, okay, stepping out of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds, well, almost impossible. Like, how do you even start? The source uses that phrase.
How do you teach a fish to fly?
Yeah, that one.
The key, according to this material, is to end the delusion of time.
Time. How does time fit in?
Time and mind are presented as inseparable. If you remove that compulsive psychological aspect of time from your mind, it naturally quietens down. Unless, of course, you choose to use it for something practical.
Okay. So being trapped in the mind is essentially being trapped in time.
Exactly. Constantly pulled back into memory for your identity.
Or projecting forward into the future for some kind of fulfillment or salvation.
Right. And both, in this view, are illusions. Psychological past and future are illusions keeping you from the now.
But hang on, this raises a practical question, doesn't it? You might be thinking, okay, but without time, how do we function? No goals. How would I know who I am? Isn't time valuable, precious?
Well, this perspective flips that completely. Time, in that psychological sense, isn't precious, it's the illusion. What is precious is the now, that one point that's actually outside of time.
And the more you focus on past and future.
The more you miss the now. The only thing that's truly real and precious.
Okay, let's really focus on that. Why is the now considered so precious?
Yeah.
What makes it the core reality here?
Well, first off, it's the only thing that actually is. It's all there is, the eternal present moment. That's the space where your whole life unfolds. Life is now.
When you think about it. Yeah. There was never a time my life wasn't now.
And there never will be, right? And second, the now is your only point of access to that deeper reality, the timeless, formless realm of being.
The source makes this really bold claim. Nothing actually exists outside the now. And it asks you, the listener, to check your own experience.
Have you ever done anything, thought anything, felt anything outside of this moment? Right now?
No. I guess not.
Will you ever? Is it even possible?
Feels like the answer has to be no,
So nothing ever happened in the past, it happened in a now.
and nothing will ever happen in the future.
It will happen in a now.
So what is the past then? And the future?
The past is just a memory trace stored in the mind of a former now, and you reactivate it now. The future is an imagined now, a projection of the mind, created now.
And when the future arrives?
It arrives as the now, always.
Ah, okay. So past and future don't have their own reality. The source uses an analogy, like the moon.
Exactly. The moon reflects the sun's light. Past and future reflect the reality, the light of the now. Their reality is borrowed.
And the mind, our normal thinking mind, it can't really grasp this.
Not in its usual mode, no.
Yeah.
But the moment you do grasp it, even for an instant, there's a shift in consciousness from mind to being, from time to presence.
And things feel different then.
Incredibly different. Everything feels alive, vibrant, radiating energy, being.
You know, sometimes this happens spontaneously, right? Like in emergencies.
Yes, exactly. Life-threatening moments can sometimes force this shift. The personality, the me with its history and future worries just recedes.
And what's left is this intense presence, still alert.
Right, and the right response just arises from that state, often very effectively.
That might explain why some people are drawn to, like, extreme sports.
It's suggested they might be unconsciously seeking that state. Mountain climbing, racing. They force you into the now because any lapse, any slip into past or future thinking could mean disaster.
Total presence is required.
Utterly. But the point is you don't need the danger. You can access that state right now.
And this idea of the now, it's not new, is it? Ancient wisdom traditions point to this.
Absolutely. Across the board. Think of the Gospels. Take no thought for the morrow. Nobody who puts his hand to the plow and looks back. These aren't just nice sayings. They're presented as radical instructions for inner transformation.
And Zen, of course.
Oh, Zen is all about it. Walking along the razor's edge of now, being so completely present that problems, suffering, anything that's not your core essence just dissolves.
Because suffering needs time.
It needs time to survive. It can't live in the pure now. Think of the Zen questions. What at this moment is lacking? Or Rinzai, if not now, when? They snap you back.
Sufism, too.
Yes, the mystical path in Islam. The Sufi is the son of time present. Rumi's poem. Past and future veil God from our sight. Burn up both of them with fire. Powerful imagery.
And Meister Eckhart.
The 13th century mystic. He said, time is what keeps the light from reaching us. There is no greater obstacle to God than time. Pretty direct.
So let's talk about accessing this more deliberately. The source mentions an experience, like looking at a tree differently.
Yeah, maybe you've had this. You look at something familiar, a tree, a flower, whatever, and suddenly you see it. Like really see it. You sense its essence, its aliveness. You feel connected.
Aware of something more than just the physical form.
Exactly. Something invisible, almost sacred. You realize you hadn't truly seen it before, just a flat label from your mind.
But then, poof, it can vanish. The feeling slips away. Can that kind of glimpse become more stable?
Well, that tree experience, that was a moment free of time, free of the mind's labels. You perceived it directly with being involved. It's a different kind of knowing.
Not just collecting facts about it.
Right. The mind knows about. It labels, judges, analyzes. This other knowing includes reverence, love, connection. It doesn't kill the spirit of the thing. Being knows directly.
And again, the mind and its knowledge have their place.
Absolutely. For practical day-to-day living, it's essential. But when that time-bound analytical mind takes over everything, relationships, nature, your sense of self,
It becomes destructive.
the source calls it a monstrous parasite that could even threaten life on the planet if unchecked. Strong words.
So the goal isn't just these fleeting glimpses, however beautiful.
No, the goal is a more permanent shift in consciousness.
How do we work towards that? What's the practice?
It's about consciously breaking that old habit of denying or resisting the present moment, making it your practice to withdraw attention from past and future whenever they aren't actually needed for a practical task.
Stepping out of psychological time more often in daily life.
Exactly. And if jumping straight into the now feels hard, a good starting point is just to observe your mind's tendency to always want to escape the present.
Notice how it jumps to the future, imagining it better or worse.
Yeah, creating hope or anxiety. Just notice that pattern. Notice how often you're not here.
And simply observing that, it helps.
It's key, because the moment you realize you are not present, you are present. That realization itself is presence arising.
Okay. When you watch the mind, you're not totally lost in it anymore.
Precisely. Something else has come in. The watcher, the witnessing presence, that's not part of the mind stream.
So the instruction is, be the watcher. Watch your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions.
Yes, be as interested in your reaction as you are in whatever triggered it. Notice when your attention drifts to past or future.
And crucially, no judging, no analyzing.
No, just watch the thought. Feel the emotion. Observe the reaction. Don't make it personal. Don't turn it into another problem about you.
And if you do that consistently,
You'll start to feel something else, something deeper than the mental noise. That's the still observing presence itself, the silent watcher behind it all.
this kind of intense presence is especially needed when things get tough, right? When strong emotions get triggered.
Definitely. When your self-image feels attacked, or you face a scary challenge, or things just go wrong, or some old emotional wound gets poked.
The tendency is to just react,
Mm.
become unconscious.
Yeah, you get taken over, you become the anger, the fear, the victim. You justify, attack, defend. But that reactive pattern, that's the mind in survival mode. It's not really you.
So identification with the mind fuels it, gives it energy, creates psychological time.
And observation withdraws that energy. That withdrawn energy becomes presence, and presence opens up the timeless dimension.
Does this make the practical mind weaker?
Quite the opposite, actually. Presence tends to make the mind sharper, more focused when you do need to use it for practical things.
And once you get a taste of what presence feels like,
It becomes easier to choose it, to consciously step out of psychological time when it's not needed and just be here, now. Moving deeper into the now doesn't impair practical functioning, it enhances it.
this brings up an important distinction the sources make. Clock time versus psychological time.
Yes, this is really practical. Learn to use clock time, the time on the clock for appointments, planning, learning from past mistakes so you act differently now, setting goals, making predictions, all necessary stuff.
But the key is,
Return to present moment awareness immediately after you've used clock time for its practical purpose. Don't linger there mentally.
and psychological time is different.
That's the time that builds up when you identify with past and future compulsively, when you get lost in it.
Can you give an example? Like with a mistake?
Sure. Learning from a past mistake right now to avoid repeating it, that's using clock time wisely.
Okay.
But mentally dwelling on that same mistake, feeling guilt, remorse, criticizing yourself endlessly, that's psychological time. You're making the mistake part of your identity, your me. Non-forgiveness of self or others always means a heavy load of psychological time.
What about goals?
Setting a goal and taking the steps towards it now, giving your full attention to this step that's clock time.
Makes sense.
But becoming obsessed with the future goal, believing your whole happiness and self-worth depend on reaching it, so the present just becomes a means to an end you resent, that's psychological time.
Life becomes this constant striving to get there.
Yeah, an obsessive need to arrive, attain, make it, and you completely miss the journey, the richness of life unfolding around you now.
So when the source says time is an illusion, it's not just some abstract philosophy.
No, it's presented as a simple, observable fact. The present moment is literally all you ever have. Your entire life happens when.
Now, always now.
Right. And psychological time, when it takes over collectively, the source calls it a kind of insanity.
How so?
Think about ideologies, communism, nationalism, rigid religious systems that claim some future highest good justifies horrific actions now. Enslavement, torture, murder, all in the name of a better world to come.
The source mentioned the millions killed for communism's vision.
Exactly. Creating a present hell for an illusory future paradise. It's described as a dangerous mental illness operating on a mass scale.
And it shows up personally too, doesn't it? Always trying to get somewhere else.
Yeah. Is most of what you do just a means to an end? Is fulfillment always just around the corner? Or maybe just fleeting pleasures, always needing to become something else, achieve something else, acquire something else to feel complete?
Or waiting for someone else to give your life meaning.
All signs of being caught in psychological time. And the cost is huge. It obscures the power and potential of the now.
Life loses its vibrancy, its freshness.
Totally. Old patterns just repeat. And the mind clings to the future as an escape from a present moment that feels unsatisfactory because you're not fully inhabiting it.
This leads right into the roots of suffering then.
Yes. The source states it very directly. All negativity is caused by an accumulation of psychological time and the denial of the present. Simple as that.
So things like unease, anxiety, stress, worry, all forms of fear.
Caused by too much future, not enough presence. You're projecting negative scenarios that aren't happening now.
And guilt, regret, resentment, grievances, sadness, bitterness. Non-forgiveness.
Caused by too much past, not enough presence. You're keeping the past alive now through negative identification.
Now, a lot of people might hear this and think, a state free of negativity, that's impossible.
It sounds radical, I know. But this perspective argues that this is the liberated state all spiritual teachings ultimately point to. It's salvation, not as a future event, but available right here, right now.
It can be hard to see time as the cause, though. We usually blame specific situations for our suffering.
And conventionally, that's true, of course. Situations trigger reactions. But the deeper point here is that until you address the root dysfunction, the mind's attachment to past, future, and denial of country, now the problems are interchangeable.
Like a shadow. Solve one problem, another pops up.
If you haven't become more present, yes, because the underlying issue, the time-bound mind itself, hasn't changed.
So if you're thinking, I just can't believe I could ever be completely free of my problems.
The response in the source is startling. You are right, you can never reach that point because you are at that point now.
Meaning, freedom isn't found in time.
Exactly. You can't be free in the future. Presence is the key to freedom, and presence is only ever now. You can only be free now.
Okay, let's unpack another key distinction. Life situation versus actual life. Someone might say, I'm unhappy right now with my life.
Right. But what you're calling life there is likely your life situation. It's a mind construct existing in time.
Made up of thoughts about the past, resistance to the present, hopes and fears about the future.
Precisely. It's mind stuff.
Yeah.
Your actual life, however, is always now. It's real. It's happening right under the mental story.
So the advice is, forget the story for a moment.
Yes. Forget your life situation for a while. Pay attention to your life.
Find the narrow gate, which is this moment.
Narrow your focus right down to this moment. Your life situation might seem full of problems. Okay, but ask yourself honestly, do I have a problem right now at this very second?
Not 10 minutes from now, not yesterday, but now.
Usually the answer is no. Right now you're breathing, you're here. Maybe there's a challenge, but is it an active problem in this instant?
When the mind is full of problems, there's no room for solutions, is there?
No space. So the practice is to create space. Find the life underneath the situation. How?
Use your senses. Be where you are. Look, listen, touch.
Yes. See the light, shapes, colors, hear the sounds and the silence underneath. Feel your breath, the energy in your body. Allow things to be just as they are. Accept the isness of this moment.
Move deeply into the now.
And as you do that, you step out of that deadening world of mental abstraction, of time. You get out of the mind that drains your energy. You awaken from the dream of time into the present.
Okay, that feels lighter, like a burden lifted.
Right.
But then the thought comes back, wait, my problems are still there, aren't they? Am I just ignoring them, evading reality?
And the source is clear. This isn't about ignoring or evading. It's about realizing that from this deeper viewpoint, there are no problems, only situations.
Situations to be dealt with now, or
Well-
accepted now until they can be dealt with.
Exactly. Problems, as mental constructs, need psychological time to survive. They literally cannot survive in the actuality of the now.
Let's try that challenge again. Focus your attention fully on the now. What problem do you have at this moment?
See, there isn't one, is there? When you're truly present, a situation maybe, a challenge, yes, but why make it a problem? Why make anything a problem? Life's challenging enough without adding that layer of mental suffering
Why does the mind seem to love problems so much?
because they give the ego a sense of identity. It feels normal in our culture, but from this perspective, it's kind of insane. A problem is defined as dwelling mentally on something without the current intention or possibility of taking action now.
And you unconsciously make it part of me.
Yeah, you identify with it, and you lose touch with the sense of life, of being. You carry this heavy burden of past and future instead of focusing on the only thing you can do, whatever is possible now.
And creating problems creates pain.
Always. So the source offers this incredibly simple yet radical choice you can make. No matter what happens, I will create no more pain for myself.
Yeah.
I will create no more problems.
That sounds simple, but feels huge.
It requires being really fed up with suffering, and it requires accessing the power of the will to make that choice stick.
But think about the ripple effect. No more pain for yourself.
Means no more pain projected onto others. You stop contaminating your inner space, your relationships, the collective consciousness with problem-making negativity.
Going back to the emergency example, it wasn't a problem then.
Right. The mind stopped, presence took over, action arose. Survive or not, the situation wasn't mentally turned into a problem. It just was.
Some people might resist this idea though, right? That problems are illusions.
Yes, especially if their identity is heavily invested in being someone who has problems, someone who suffers. Without that story, who are they? It can feel threatening.
And fear. It's tied to time, too.
Absolutely. Fear is always about the future, about what might happen. If you're fully present in the part, now where there are no problems, there's also no fear.
Does action change when it comes from presence?
Immensely. It's described as clear, decisive, effective, more intuitive, less driven by old conditioning, and sometimes the most powerful action arising from presence is to do nothing externally, just stay centered.
This whole shift, it's presented as something bigger than just personal transformation.
Yes, like a collective awakening, an awakening from the dream of matter, form, separation, an end to the dominance of psychological time, which has fueled so much suffering, so much unconsciousness or insanity throughout history.
Is it inevitable, though? Will it just happen? Or do we have to do something?
The perspective here is that the doing and the happening are intertwined. You're part of the whole. Your doing, your conscious participation, is part of the larger happening.
So it's not automatic. Our cooperation is needed.
It's essential. It's framed as a potential quantum leap in consciousness evolution, maybe even necessary for our survival.
Okay, let's bring it back to daily life with this idea of the joy of being. How do we know if psychological time has taken over?
There's a simple test. Ask yourself, is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I'm doing?
And if not? If it feels like a burden, a struggle.
That's a sign that psychological time is covering the present moment. Life feels heavy.
So what do? Change what you're doing.
Not necessarily. The key is usually to change the how. How you're doing it is always more important.
Meaning, give more attention to the action itself, not just the future result.
Exactly. Give your fullest attention to whatever this moment contains, whatever you are doing right now. And that implies acceptance, because you can't give your full attention to something you're actively resisting.
And when you honor the present moment like that,
Unhappiness, struggle, they tend to dissolve. Life starts to flow with more joy and ease. Even simple actions take on a quality of care, maybe even love.
this sounds like karma yoga from the Bhagavad Gita.
It's very much aligned with that principle, yes. Don't be attached to the fruits of your action. Focus on the action itself. The results take care of themselves. It turns any action into a spiritual practice, consecrated action.
When you stop that compulsive striving away from now,
The joy of being starts to flow into your life. Attention on the now brings presence, stillness, peace. You're not looking to the future for salvation anymore.
less attached to results. Failure and success don't rock your inner state as much.
Exactly. Because you found the life underneath the life situation. That deeper sense of well-being isn't dependent on external outcomes.
Your sense of self comes from being, not your past store.
Right. There's no psychological need to become someone else because you realize on a deeper level you are already complete now.
But does that mean you stop pursuing goals in the world?
Not at all. You can still pursue goals, achieve things, interact with the world of form, but you do it without the desperate, needy expectation that those things will save you or make you fundamentally happy.
Because you know your true completeness lies deeper.
Yes. So the energy behind your actions changes. It becomes more playful, joyous, not driven by fear, anger, or lack.
Less fear of failure.
Much less. Failure is just an outcome in the world of form. It doesn't threaten your essential being, unlike the ego's fear of annihilation.
So don't seek permanence where it can't be found in the world of constant change.
Precisely. Don't demand that situations, people, or achievements make you happy and then suffer when they inevitably fall short.
There's that paradox again. Everything is honored, but nothing matters.
You engage fully with life, honoring the forms, but you're aware of the eternal reality underneath it all. You know that nothing real can be threatened.
And when that's your state of being,
How can you not succeed? In the deepest sense, you have succeeded already.
wow. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this deep dive. A really profound look at shifting from that time-bound, often problem-focused mind.
To the liberating power, the fundamental reality of the eternal now.
And remember, this isn't just theory. It's presented as a practice. Learning that difference between clock time and psychological time.
Observing your mind without getting caught, using your senses to anchor yourself right here, making that conscious choice again and again to be present.
So, maybe the thought to leave you with is this. If problems truly are mind-made illusions that can't survive in the reality of the now, what does that actually mean for the challenges you feel are defining your life situation right now?
What shift could happen, what space could open up if you just brought your full attention, even for a moment, to the single present moment?